Coming up this week, off screen, Jonah Hill and James Franco play it straight in drama True Story. We get the inside scoop on what really happened with Tim Burton's Superman Lives in Kickstarter-funded documentary The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. Marvel's latest adventure Ant-Man is upon us. Found footage is the order of the day yet again for the horror genre with The Gallows. And find out what it takes to look like Ryan Reynolds in sci-fi thriller Selfless. All of those to come and more off screen.
This is Off Screen. Off Screen. Off Screen. Off Screen. With the latest film news and reviews, this is Off Screen, the on-screen radio show.
Welcome to Off Screen, I'm Van Connor.
My name is Kase.
We've got a decent lineup this week, some interesting
It's not
stuff.
bad, yeah.
It's
quite an eclectic mix.
It is an eclectic mix, I will say. I mean, we had that last-minute edition of Superman Lives because...
How could we turn it down?
You couldn't. I mean, it's worldwide digital download, that's the thing.
Absolutely,
so it's just interesting. No, it doesn't have a BBFC rating.
Oh, really? It's suitable for everyone.
It is, I would say. There's nothing really profane content in it. So it would be a PG, I think.
Well, Kevin Smith is in it, so it might be a couple of F-bombs. But potentially.
Possibly a 12A then. We'll
maybe,
see.
yeah.
Maybe. 12A, 15 at pinch. So, should we start with the True Story then this week?
Yeah, let's do it. Jonah Hill wants to be nominated for an Oscar again. He's got a taste for it.
So, True Story, which is the film you might have seen the trailer of, and noticeably in the trailer, everybody's an Oscar nominee. Literally everybody they name on the cast list is Oscar nominee James Franco, Oscar nominee Jonah Hill, Oscar nominee Felicity Jones. And Felicity Jones really doesn't need to be there, but this is based on, wouldn't you believe it, a true story. Hence the clever title.
Makes sense.
Clever titles seem to be a thing this week because every title seems to relate to something directly in the film.
Yeah.
It's very true. You look at our list of releases, everything, even Selfless is a bit of a spoiler, but still. Anyway, so True Story is the true story, wouldn't you believe it, of Mike Finkel, or Michael Finkel to give him his actual real-world name, who was a reporter for the New York Times, who was caught fabricating a story and then let go, only to then find sort of redemption in the case of wrongfully accused, a supposed wrongfully accused man, accused of murdering his family, and then stealing the identity of Michael Finkel to go on the run.
Yes.
In this case, Finkel is played by Jonah Hill. The man in question,
Christian
Longo, who's played by James Franco. The pair meet in incarceration, in Longo's incarceration, and Jonah Hill finds himself becoming the unwitting biographer of the man he believes to be wrongfully accused. But as always, there's a little bit more to the story than we're at first led to believe. Here's a clip.
What are you writing?
Sorry, it's a habit.
First impressions?
Yes, first impressions.
What'd you put down?
Brown eyes.
That's not very remarkable. Sure, 70% of the world is brown eyes.
I guess so. I don't.
You know, there's a mathematical technique that will determine how ordinary a person you are. Not just your looks, but your whole life.
Really?
By my calculations, I'd say I'm pretty ordinary.
So, True Story. Kase, you had the pleasure of this one. So
I don't know if pleasure is the word I would necessarily throw there, but...
Did you find it offensively bad? Or
it wasn't offensively bad. It was just bad. I mean,
it has gotten a lot.
I'm not saying that it's slow because I like a good slow burn, and I like this kind of, is he a criminal? Is he the good guy? You don't really know. I mean, that kind of content reminds me of what's the Sean Penn, Tim Robbins, Dead Man Walking. Yeah, kind of reminded me of that, especially more.
You just said Sean Penn, Tim Robbins. You mean Sean Penn and Susan Sarandon, don't you?
Yeah, but Tim Robbins wrote and directed it, so
okay.
I don't know why I didn't say Susan Sarandon.
Yeah,
I could have done. Yeah,
Tim Robbins.
Literally the lead character. Not anymore.
You've got to admit that as far as like slapping the audience over the head with a message goes, you don't get much bigger than calling your film a true story.
Yeah.
I mean, God, this is all.
At least in the trailer, it doesn't say based on true events.
There is that. I mean, do you remember when Scream first came out? It was going to be called Scary Movie originally, and then years later that became the name of the parody. So this is kind of conceptually weird. Conceptually, it's like a spongier John Grisham adaptation, but like not playing it straight quite as much as a John Grisham adaptation. This is, I say, spongier, slightly more popcorny. And that's the problem, because you've got two films at work here, and there is the one that wants to be the cliched Hollywood twisty-turny, is he innocent, is he not? Oh my God, what does it mean for me and my family? You know, the emotional... And then you've got the emotional character drama. And the emotional character drama is better than the spongy John Grisham adaptation. But having said that, you've then got the performances, which are so uneven. I mean, Jonah Hill, Jonah Hill, great. Thought Jonah Hill was fine in it because he's doing that version of Jonah Hill serious acting that I can take.
He's kind of perfected it over the last couple of years. Moneyball,
it's the Moneyball.
Well, not Wolf of Wall Street, obviously.
Oh God, no.
That's the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, this is Moneyball mode. I would say for Jonah Hill, and then you've got James Franco, who I can't tell if he's. I can't tell if he's phoning it in or if he's so baked he genuinely believes he killed some people. And that's because he's clearly not taking it that seriously.
He's just kind of sat there kind of doe-eyed.
Yeah, you kind of just feel like he's just, I had a week off, I thought I'd do a film.
That's it,
It has that feeling to it.
Most of his parts just take place inside one, maybe two rooms.
Yeah,
really,
you know what? Say what you like. You do some acting. I'll react. It's fine. It's
basically the Oscars.
It's all the same. Yeah. It is that. But this is what got me in trouble at the Oscars. And then you've got Felicity Jones, who I swear to God, she must be there purely to answer any possible concerns about homoeroticism, because this seems to it is basically a sort of, it's about the relationship between these two guys, and it's played in a pretty straight-laced, engaging enough sort of an enjoyable range of performances. But you just feel like every time Felicity Jones has this phoned-in part, which they handle in the same way as like a producer at a restaurant asking for more water, it seems to be like, can we have another girl bit?
Yeah.
Waitress.
More Felicity.
Waitress.
Bring
Felicity.
her in, please.
Felicity, come on, we need a girl bit now. Just remind the guys in the audience that there are girls.
It's a bit of a shame, really. She's a fantastic young actress.
Yeah, I'd say she deserves so much better than this.
Absolutely,
it's quite obvious that this was a performance filmed before the hype for Theory of Everything began.
Well, on the trailer it doesn't say Oscar nominee Felicity Jones.
Does it not?
No, it just says Felicity Jones. Yeah, I think on the poster it might have been rectified now.
Oh wow! Well, I mean, this is the thing. It's just got these two conflicting films, and you've got those performances in the middle, and the performances, even Franco's, are better than the mishmash that is the film itself. The performances are literally the only thing holding its head above water here, and that's the problem. It veers too far off course too often. And what's his name? Rupert Gould, who's behind it. He's the writer-director on it. He just does not seem to know what the film is that he's trying to make. And every time you think you've got a handle on it, it slips off and tries to go in the other direction. So when you think you're doing the character drama, it goes off to become Gingerbread Man again.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and then when you think it's the spongy John Grisham Gingerbread Man style film, it goes and becomes the character. You're like, no, just please stick to something, or at least meld the two, and it never quite comes together. No. Not for me, anyway.
Well, I would have liked to see more of Felicity Jones and Jonah Hill. I would like to see more of Felicity Jones reacting to Mike Finkel's
I would like to have seen Felicity Jones have anything to do.
Yeah, because that should be why she's there. To be like, oh, you entered into this strange... And it does hint at that. I mean, she walks in and she looks concerned. I would be more than concerned if my partner was getting into this.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make a whole... Plus, she seems to live in a cabin in the middle of nowhere for no reason. The story doesn't really make a whole...
Was she like a lecturer or a teacher or something?
It never straight up
She said something about college and saying I could get an extension. And
it's never quite explained.
Seems like a teacher, yeah.
Something like that. I think she's some sort of researcher, PhD, something possibly, like that. Should we do some film news then? Let's have a look what's going on in the myriad of cinematic events. It's been an interesting week. Have you heard about Michael Cera?
Robin.
This is great.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Lego Batman is going to have Will Arnett as Batman again, from the Lego movie. And then we're going to have his on-screen nephew from Arrested Development, Michael Cera, as Robin. That could work.
I love this. I want all of the Arrested Development cast to be in it.
It would be great, wouldn't it?
Have Jeffrey Tambor as Alfred or something.
Exactly.
Or Commissioner Gordon or someone.
Yeah, that would work. I'm trying to think. Jason Bateman as Nightwing.
Like an older night, yeah.
Older Nightwing.
Like disillusioned, annoyed with everything.
That would kind of work.
Yeah.
And, Portia Rossi as Catwoman. This is
man.
all coming together.
Let's do it, yeah. Let's call it Warner's.
Isla Fisher as Poison Ivy. What's not to
Yeah,
love?
done, yeah.
So, Julianne Moore's quit the drama that she was due to start in a week, which was
okay.
Lee Israel's Can You Ever Forgive Me? That was due to start filming in a week. She has quit. I'm not even particularly sure why. I think it was over scheduling.
Well, that's the standard.
Yeah, the unofficial.
Yeah.
Have you heard Disney are doing a live action prequel to Aladdin?
About the genie.
About the genie?
Yeah, it's just going to be called
Genies.
Yeah, it's like the very kind of Pixar-ish title, isn't
Yeah,
it? Just
I
Genies.
think that would work as a Pixar movie as well. Genies,
Yeah,
I would watch
I would
that.
like that.
But there was this is the terrible story this week that they had to shut down production on the latest Divergent sequel.
Oh, I didn't hear about this.
This was due to child endangerment because a whistleblower who was an extra on the set reported that they had large groups of children running across a field towards a large group of adults. Those adults charging at the kids with weapons. Those weapons not made of rubber. And,
Oh, man.
yeah, and it's like the kid apparently had to swing the weapons and the kids had to duck under the weapons.
Okay,
and,
yeah, not safe.
yeah, not safe, and yeah, not cool. Summit Entertainment. How dare you? I mean, as if the Twilight movies weren't bad enough. You did
So we
this.
do like to cut corners, don't we?
Well, I mean, it's not like they bothered hiring writers for the Twilight movies, so
yeah, there we are.
Tilda Swinton has confirmed she is going to be playing the Ancient One.
I'm absolutely on board with it.
And I had to write my review of Trainwreck this because
You didn't know.
I
You didn't know she was in it.
Tilda Swinton is the boss in Trainwreck because
She's got like a fake tan and...
this is the thing because they showed this to all the journalists in London last week ahead of its US release. So all the critics in both the UK and the US saw it at the same time, and our embargo I think was more or less around the same time because Amy Schumer's on all the British magazines now, and the film isn't out until the beginning of September. So I've seen a film and written a review of it. 6 weeks
You've
before.
got to sit on it, yeah.
It's got 6 weeks. That's almost as bad as Saving Mr. Banks, which I think was 2 months.
yeah.
And Kill Your Darlings, which I had 4.5 months on. That was a good one. And Snowpiercer, which so far it's 18 months. But any time you'd like to release Snowpiercer,
I'm going to say, and counting, even though we've all seen it.
yeah.
Thank you, Netflix.
Should we just like warn the general public first and foremost that we are now on a 1 week countdown. There are something like 6 days left now until Sharknado 3. Oh hell no, is upon us. This is airing on Sci-Fi. Is it 23rd of this month?
It's the 23rd, yeah. You're counting our days, aren't you?
I really am. I can't wait for Oh hell no, and I really want.
Hell no.
I want a copy of that song that plays in the. Oh hell no!
Great.
Oh hell no! God bless America. Thank you, Ian Ziering. Thank you. We have an interview with Ian Ziering to go up on the
I've
site
heard
at
he's
some point.
the nicest guy. I've heard he's really great.
John Dickinson interviewed him for us. And so we were quite happy about that. Yeah, apparently he is a lovely guy. Did you know he's in his 50s?
No, really?
Ian Ziering's like 51 or something.
Tilda Swinton, 54.
Really?
Yeah.
That woman is so
crazy,
well.
yeah.
'Cause I'm convinced she just leaves a film set and goes back to like a bottle of preservative. Where she reverts to her natural embryo-like state with the face of Conan O'Brien.
Hence the hair. Hence the quiff.
So what else we got? Oh, Idris Elba is now officially part of the Star Trek
Yes, he was
cast.
on. There was a charity video.
This is it, yeah.
Which is a cool way to announce, I think.
It was.
Yeah,
I watched that charity video. I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Idris Elba's there.
Yeah, he just
What?
pops up.
You're like, what? It's the fact that I think he was there in shorts that it's like, really? He's taking this kind of casual.
Dude could rock up to the Oscars in shorts and we'd still let him in.
Really good.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
He's just...
Coolest news ever, because we mentioned Sharknado, and we've got to mention the Asylum's other upcoming film, which I think we've talked about, which is, this is going to be out in the summer of 2016. It's a film called Dead 7. This is going to be written and directed by Nick Carter of the Backstreet Boys.
Oh, fantastic.
And he's going to
we have spoken about this.
have.
Yeah, we have.
This is going to be a zombie western, which will team up members of the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC to fight zombies in the Wild West.
Great.
What's not to love there?
I love that it kind of comes in between the release of the Adam Sandler rubbish,
Ridiculous Six.
yeah, Ridiculous Six, and then the remake of Magnificent Seven.
Exactly.
It's like
So, yeah.
fantastic in between.
It's almost like they've scheduled a mockbuster way in advance,
Yeah.
which is kind of clever. John C. Reilly's confirmed Wreck-It Ralph 2. That's officially happening now.
Yeah, I guess it's taken this long because we wanted to reserve the rights from Nintendo. I think
I think something like that.
Yeah, they want to get Mario on board, get Zelda on board. I think.
Shall we? Well, one final piece then, because this is my favourite news of the week, just because it's so out there. Mel Gibson has been hired as the art director for a Chinese war movie.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it's a war movie about Chinese forces. I mean it is a war movie made by Chinese studios in China.
Yeah.
It's called The Bombing, and it's going to star Bruce Willis. It's going to star Bruce Willis.
I think...
Very odd one.
I think they're just going to get paid so much money.
Oh, God, yeah. That Chinese box office, that's big bucks.
Dragon Blade, have you seen the trailer for that?
No, I haven't.
John Cusack, Adrian Brody.
Oh, God.
Oscar winner, Academy Award winner Adrian Brody, it says on the trailer. And he's got this big black mane.
John Cusack's an Academy Award winner, isn't he?
No.
Is he a nominee?
He's a nominee for Golden Globe, never an Oscar.
Did you not get something for The Grifters? Way back
No,
when?
no, he didn't. I don't believe so. It was a good film, though. But yeah, John Cusack was playing like a Roman soldier. I know, yeah. Anyway.
Right. On then to our next review, which is John Schnepp's... John Schnepp. His Kickstarter-funded documentary, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. Now, you and I were both looking forward to this for one very big reason. It involves the fate of the aborted Tim Burton movie, Superman Lives, what went on behind the scenes, and why we never got to see the true delight that would have been Nicolas Cage as Superman in 1998.
Fighting a giant spider.
Fighting a giant spider in the third act.
Yeah, Hungarian snare beast.
Yes, Hungarian snare beast. And this is kind of weird, because I never realised until this documentary, actually, that it was actually meant to be pronounced Thanagarian snare beast, because Thanagar is Hawkman's homeworld. So it was actually going to be tying it in.
So it was going to tie in. Who knows what could have happened?
Who knows? I mean, there was a lot of stuff in this film that you wouldn't believe, and they lay it all out for you in the form of concept art, in terms of interviews with people who worked behind the scenes, costume designers, set designers.
We talked to so many people were actually kind of hired for this project. It's insane. I mean,
it is, isn't it?
Got shut down 3 weeks before it was going to start.
That was the story. Yeah. So, should we have a clip?
Superman Lives, or Superman Reborn, and then Superman Lives, and then later Superman Returns, was meant to be kind of like, let's kickstart Superman again in a bit more earnest way. Not the like spit, curl, and wink of Chris Reeve and Dick Donner. They wanted a 90s version of Superman, even though when I was writing, all I was writing was Chris Reeve. I thought Bryan Singer's version forgot to like put in
action.
Yeah, like he didn't get to punch anybody. He punched an island.
So, The Death of Superman Lives. This has been coming for a while. We've because it was a Kickstarter project.
We were talking about it quite a while ago.
About a year ago on Kickstarter.
Something like that, yeah.
And it's been coming for a long while. You got the impression the film was sort of already in production before the Kickstarter thing happened. And then the Kickstarter thing sort of saw it through to the finishing line.
Yeah.
And, this story has been around for a long, long time.
It is. There's that picture of Nick Cage in the suit that's been circulating for years.
That has. But I think what really started it was Kevin Smith was back in 2002 with An Evening with Kevin Smith. The very first Q&A. Yeah. And Kevin Smith told the story. I think it goes on for about 15 minutes. He tells the story.
Yeah.
And I bring this up because in his interview segments in this film, he repeats the story on a very creepy level, almost word for word, using very specific terminology and direct quotes, which it tells you that it's either completely fabricated, but it's very well fabricated, or Kevin Smith just has a really good memory.
I think he just has a really good
memory. I'm inclined to believe either, to be honest. I don't care. I'll go with either.
He's a very kind of great storyteller when it comes to just talking to people.
It's very true. Yeah. However, John Peters, we have to discuss John Peters, because John Peters is the producer who allegedly was behind this everything that went wrong with the film.
He was a hairdresser originally.
He was Barbra Streisand's hairdresser turned boyfriend turned movie producer, and also a street fighter with 500 fights under his belt.
Which nobody knew until this film came out.
No, because he just casually drops these things out there. Yeah. And Kase, did you know I'm a world champion bungee jumper?
No, I didn't know that.
It's that level of just casually dropping things in.
Just drop it out there.
And you could watch this almost as a fascinating character study in the personality of John Peters.
I would like to see a documentary just about John Peters.
I would, in a strange way. But the weird thing is, what that then contributes to is you've got this documentary which is very, very well made, and it's clearly a labour of love. It's a visible labour of love on Schnepp's part. And Schnepp is this great, wacky, big-haired, sort of crazy eyebrows, mad scientist glasses sort of a character. And he's clearly zany and a bit witty and loves what he is talking about. And as he says at the very beginning of the film, he's always been fascinated, why did we never get to see Nicolas Cage as Superman? And that's obviously what's driven this film. We're apparently getting another one from another director, which is about the George Miller Justice League one.
Oh yes, we are. Yeah,
which
that'll be good.
Would be as interesting.
Because that got fully cast as
that
well.
went into production. That did. But in this case, you've got this film. Say John Schnapp's behind it. He's put it together really, really well. And I'm not sure if it's a deliberate thing or if it's sort of an accidental result. But what he's come up with is a film that has this sort of 50-50 split between a war of words between Kevin Smith, whose story we've heard a million times, and John Peters, who only seems to further bolster Kevin Smith's points.
Yeah.
Although, unintentionally bolsters.
Kevin Smith seems to have more respect for John Peters, and
Than
John
Miller,
Peters,
yeah.
I think, even calls him a hack or an amateur.
He does
at
call him
point.
at one point. He was a hack, he didn't know what he was doing. Okay, in fairness, he was 26. What did you really... He's 26 and he's
Yeah, you
written
just
2
hired
films.
the dude who did more of that.
Yeah, you hired the
He's
guy
just doing
that did
Chasing
more of
Amy.
that.
It's a different film.
And then you've got the other half of the film, which is, for instance, the behind the scenes artists, art designers, set designers, and Tim Burton. Now, Tim Burton, who, for the record, having seen this movie, I now think could be played by Nicolas Cage in a biopic.
Oh, yeah.
Could genuinely be played by Nicolas Cage.
brilliant.
I would watch that movie.
Yeah.
Instead of
Me too,
Ed
me
Wood,
too.
it's Tim Burton. Could work. Get it directed by Tim Burton, even better. Do a whole Howard
As
Stern
himself,
private parts
yeah.
thing. And so what we've got is the Tim Burton John Schnapp stuff, which is incredibly interesting and incredibly articulate. And Burton seems to, like he said, look, it is quite painful to talk about this because he occupied so much of my life,
So much time
and
towards
so
it, yeah.
much time, and it was heartbreaking when it all led to nothing. And then you sit there and think, yes, but last time I checked, you got 12 million for it regardless. So your heartbreak is a little bit.
It's cushioned. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Your heartbreak is somewhat softened, I would imagine.
Yeah, he seems to be a little bit more open than what I would have thought.
I
really.
thought he would be cagier, no pun intended. I thought
that
he
was
would be
totally
cagey.
intended.
And that is something you do notice about the film, is that Nicolas Cage himself is suspiciously absent. Although I do now want to look up the episode of Unscripted that they use clips from, because that's all we get of Nicolas Cage, really, is his unscripted appearance, which is, it's a Q&A kind of show. But you then get the money shot of the film, the whole thing the film is marketed on, which is we have the behind-the-scenes footage of Nicolas Cage as Superman. We have him trying on the suit and discussing Superman. That's what we're all queuing up to see, really. And it is worth it.
It's fantastic, the footage.
The image of the images you've seen online, ignore them. Those are not. Those are like for 30 seconds in the film. They were intended for 30-second shots, weren't they? Like the regeneration of Superman.
Yeah.
The actual Superman suit was a lot more traditional in one sense.
Yeah, it had the actual S.
It was the normal colours, the normal tones.
It's probably more kind of moulded.
That was it. It was the moulded rubber of Batman,
Which is
but it was-
great,
yeah,
really.
but it was the traditional Superman suit, and even Nicolas Cage's hair, sort of the weird, wacky
works.
long wig. It works. Yeah. I never thought before I saw this documentary that I would want to see Nicolas Cage as Superman. I now do.
I wish that was a thing. I wish that we saw
I
it.
do. Why can't we kickstart fund that?
Because he's now 50.
I don't care. I still want to see.
Like, he could probably be Lex Luthor, which might be crazier. But that's
would
one of my
work.
favourite things. I didn't realise that there was a plan to splice Brainiac and Lex Luthor.
Brainiac and Lex Luthor. Yes,
Lexiac.
that was in because
Yeah.
the script's on the internet. You can read the script quite
yeah,
easily.
yeah.
Because one of the things I always loved about the script is there is a corrupt senator named Senator Caitlin Bree, which, if you're a fan of the Kevin Smith Viewer Scooniverse, is actually somewhat. It's actually a character in them. But no, well worth a look. It's available now on digital download. I think it'll cost you $14.99,
Something like that, yeah.
thereabouts. Definitely worth checking out, particularly if you've ever wondered what this would have been like. Let's end it by saying there would have been a movie in which Nicolas Cage, as Superman, and under the direction of Tim Burton, would have punched Christopher Walken in the face. That's a movie you want to see.
That's
And
what
if,
you want to watch.
Yeah, if that sentence doesn't sell the idea to you,
Then you're not a movie fan.
this not only are you not a movie fan, but this movie quite clearly is not for you.
Yeah.
So, shall we plug our competitions real quick? So,
Yeah, what have we got going on?
Well, this week we've got the Gallows and TED 2 going on this week. So
We
if
can win an actual TED.
you win an actual talking TED in the TED 2 competition, and the Gallows is a hoodie, stage crew T-shirt. There's a cool little set of in-ear headphones and a locker, mirror, notebook. And so you just go on to onscreenfilm.com, competition
It's all on
section,
there.
all on there. You can enter on there. There's no question or anything. Just pop your details in on the site, and hey presto, you might win something. You never know. Okay, our next review then. Should we have a look at The Gallows? Which is
I understand you weren't a massive fan.
I wasn't a massive fan. This is the latest found footage horror film, so, on that basis alone, I'm already not a fan. The found footage genre is a genre that persists. It just persists it will never end. And yet, there's only like 2 or 3 examples of good ones in the whole little subgenre. So you've got the Gallows. Before we get into all that, you've got the Gallows, which is the story of... Bear with me, Case, because this is going to sound ridiculous.
I'm ready. I'm sat down.
So you've got small town high school in Midwestern town America. Okay. Right. In 1993, we're shown through VHS camcorder footage, and there is the school is putting on a play. It's called The Gallows. It involves, wouldn't you know it, a hanging. It's a love story, and there's a hanging involved. And the young actor who goes and puts the rope round his neck is accidentally hung and killed in front of an entire packed auditorium. Right? Okay.
That's bad luck, that.
That is bad luck. Flash forward 20 years, and this same high school has decided to do a commemorative performance of the same exact play. Yes, your eyebrow...
Poor taste. Poor taste, isn't it?
Exactly. You think, what? Who the...
It's like wearing a Jurassic Park t-shirt to Jurassic World.
It is. It's like wearing that, yeah. I respected what they did. They just needed dinosaurs. In this case, they just needed Gallows. Turns out that was the problem. It's incredibly poor taste. There's clearly no PTA in this universe either, and that kind of tells you from minute one what sort of terrain you're on with this film. So 20 years later, you've got this commemorative performance which is being put on by the school drama geek, who's meant to be this sort of unapproachable, stiff nerd type, but in actuality is played by a complete fox because low budget
Hollywood,
low budget horror and ... movie. This all culminates, of course, in said drama student, her would-be love interest, who can't quite admit that he's into her and that's why he's in the play, his best friend and his best friend's cheerleader girlfriend, all stuck in the high school overnight being hunted by, apparently, the ghost of the student who died on stage in 1993. Here's a clip.
Come on, don't hang up, Dad. Don't hang up. Where's that coming from? It's my phone. It's in the locker. It's in the locker. My dad's calling. You gotta get it open. I keep ringing. Don't hang up. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Hello, Dad. Dad. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm at the school. Dad.
He wants me. He's coming for me.
No! Wait! What is this stupid play?
So yes, the plot synopsis should have you... I mean, you were visibly...
I'm not sold.
You're visibly not sold. John Dickinson was more or less destroyed by this film. He was heartbroken.
I understand he was actually quite looking forward to it. He was quite excited.
He was, and I got back from London late last night and went to this. I didn't get to. There was only one press showing of this. Would you believe? Only one. Having seen the film, I can now understand why.
Well, as few people as possible to see it.
Yeah, I can understand why now as well. This is really, really bad, but. Instead of just playing like a really poor movie, what it actually plays like is the greatest hits of really poor found footage horror movies. And the thing about that is it has this celebratory, yay, found footage feeling. You start thinking, this subgenre has done nothing to earn this. No. There's no feeling of having earned this at all. And what you're left with is a by-the-numbers checklist of, right, we've got to do this bit from that movie, we've got to do this bit from that movie, this bit from that one. And it is, you can literally piece it together.
It's like a pick and mix. Yeah.
It is a pick and mix, and it's all stitched together, and like a hangman's mask, funnily enough. And then you get to the actual... I mean, bear in mind, this starts on that concept of the school has put on the play from 20 years ago, which, as you pointed out, with no prompting from me, you have said, that's in poor taste.
In poor
now,
taste. Yeah.
This is the thing. That's within 5 minutes of the film starting, you're already thinking...
Somebody would have an issue of that. Like, if there were any actual characters in the film, would have...
Exactly.
Take some severe, umbrage with...
It's so bad. But because the core concept, the school putting on the play, because that is so convoluted and incomprehensible, that doesn't make for a great foundation upon which to then build an entire narrative, because basically the ground is shaky to begin with. You then got this cast who seem to be like 99-cent store versions of other actors. So you've got this lead who seems to be like the cheap equivalent of Freddie Prinze Jr. in 1996. You've got another one who seems to be like they wanted a 15-year-old TJ Miller, but what they actually got was a 22-year-old skateboarder. You've got a Hayden Panettiere type, and then a Lea Michele type. And you're just like, why didn't you just... Do you know what? As
Those
bad
people
as
probably
this
wouldn't
is,
have been that expensive to get.
Exactly. As bad as this is, why didn't you just go and get them?
I mean, Freddie Prinze is probably getting on now.
He is 40 and is being kept busy by the WWE. So,
of course,
which is the greatest bit of job placement I've ever heard in my life. But
what does he do?
He's the producer for the WWE. He produces the storylines and everything for the WWE.
That's
Fred from Scooby-Doo runs the WWE. Right, no Vince McMahon. It's Freddie Prinze Jr. It's basically Freddie Prinze Jr. and Triple H.
It's the male nanny from the episode of Friends.
Exactly, it's the Manny.
It's the Manny.
Right, but then this is the weird part as well. Say the film, it's rubbish. It's completely rubbish. It doesn't make a lick of sense either, because having come out of the film, I was actually left with more questions than I went in with. It raised more questions than it answered in a strange way. And then you have this weird celebratory sort of tone to it. It seems to think that it is a celebratory mid-80s. You know what? Towards the end of the first run of slasher films, when you start getting things like Terror Train and stuff like that, the really cheap and cheerful ones. It's like that, but made found footage, and then given this sort of injection of 1996 New Line. But it clearly thinks it's better than it is. I mean, one of the first lines in the film is, "Wow, they did a good job with the Gallows." And,
wow, no.
Yeah, and believe me, nobody, I repeat, nobody is ever going to say
They must
that.
have known they've got a stink on their hand. You can't have that kind of...
Nobody's saying that about the film. No.
With the latest film news and reviews, this is Offscreen.
Welcome back to Off Screen. So, on to the man events, I believe.
Yeah.
So, Marvel are back.
Mr. Lang.
And Mr. Lang is upon us. So, Marvel's latest Ant-Man, which reaches us after what can only be described as a particularly arduous production process.
Yeah.
During which, obviously, its director and writer and most of the behind-the-scenes staff left.
Composer left.
Yeah, weeks
Everyone,
before shooting. And that was Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish in this case. What we now have is the version which has been put together in 12 months or less by director Peyton Reed, with Paul Rudd starring and co-writing with Adam McKay, who brought us Anchorman as well, and a supporting cast which includes Michael Douglas as Marvel character legend Hank Pym. Yeah. Marvel Comics legend Hank Pym, and Evangeline Lilly as his daughter Hope, and Michael Pena as Luis. And let us not forget Bobby Cannavale, because
of course, he
needs all the hype in. Yeah,
Corey Stoll as well.
And Corey Stoll.
Let's give him some props. I love Corey Stoll.
Yeah, he's doing a bit of his Jeff Bridges routine, but
I think Marvel bad guy with no hair. I
think that's going to be just the case now. Right, so what you've got is the story of Scott Lang, who is a recently paroled convict who basically is roped into performing one last job. You know, that token one last job. I'm pretty sure it comes in envelope marked one last job. Doesn't, but
might as well have.
Reassembling his crew, which consists of Michael Pena, for example, to steal what turns out to be an experimental suit which grants him the ability to shrink to ant-like size, but with proportionally increased strength. So smaller stature, more strength. Turns out, though, this is all a ruse by Michael Douglas's Hank Pym to basically establish that Scott has what it takes to
become
the Ant-Man.
Genuine line from the film, I think.
I want you to become the Ant-Man.
That was my best Paul Rudd noise.
That was a good one. I'm working on my Michael Douglas.
Right.
But basically, the whole crux of it is that Hank Pym wants to stop his former assistant, played by Corey Stoll, who I'm going to go by the timeline that they've given us, which would probably mean he's about 50 years old, if you believe the timeline of the movie, to stop his former assistant, the 50-year-old Corey Stoll, from basically recreating the Ant-Man technology and unleashing chaos inadvertently upon the world. Here's a clip.
In the right hands, the relationship between man and suit is symbiotic. The suit has power. The man harnesses that power. You need to be skillful, agile, and above all, you need to be fast. You should be able to shrink and grow on a dime, so your size always suits your needs.
When you're small, energy's compressed, so you have the force of a 200-pound man behind a fist 1/100 of an inch wide. You're like a bullet. You punch too hard, you kill someone. Too soft, it's a love tap. In other words, you have to know how to punch.
I was in prison for 3 years. I know how to punch.
Show me. Terrible.
You want to show me how to punch? Show me.
That's how you punch.
This was one that nobody expected to be any good, I don't think. I think there was a lot of people, because it's very fashionable now to bank on Marvel to ruin it, really, to ruin the streak.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of Pixar.
Yeah, it is. Really? Everyone was waiting for Pixar to drop the ball.
And then Cars 2. And then that's what it was.
Well, I argued Cars 1 at the time, but...
I
was never sold on Ratatouille, actually, if I'm honest.
Really?
Never sold on
That's just you and nobody else I think in the world.
Well, I admit, I think because it came out when I was at uni and I wasn't really in a Pixar stage when I was at university. university. But and then when I finished uni, it was kind of about the time for Wall-E. So, swings and
yeah.
roundabouts. Yeah, I came back into Pixar.
But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. People were just kind of thinking...
Yeah, we all thought this was it. This is the ball dropping.
I don't know. I did have like a monochrome of hope.
I said I thought because of how bad it could be, that kind of tells you how bad it wasn't going to be. And I was banking on it to be, do you know what, all right. Now, I'm happy to say I thought it was actually very good.
Yeah,
very
really
good, very fun. And that's it, fun. Everyone says I enjoyed it, I had fun with it, and it's very funny. And that's a key word as well, funny, because of all the Marvel films, this seems to be an out-and-out comedy.
Yeah.
As opposed to Guardians, which was highly comedic. This is an out-and-out comedy. This is a heist comedy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't refer to Guardians of the Galaxy as a sci-fi comedy.
No, you'd say it's like a space opera like Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, I've called it sort of a sci-fi adventure movie, is how I've referred to the Guardians. I've called it sci-fi, but I've also said highly comedic sci-fi adventure.
Well, in marketing, we're all saying that this is Marvel's heist film. And
yes.
It is. That is the kind of central...
Well, that's it. It continues that genre
let's take a genre,
thing they've done. But they did Captain America with the 70s thing. Thor did the Game of Thrones
Cap 1 was like a war film. Yeah.
Exactly. And it carries it on, and we've got the heist movie now. But the out-and-out comedy thing is more remarkable than the heist thing. The out-and-out comedy actually works surprisingly well. Because the comedy is kind of so thoughtfully constructed, it makes the actual Marvel Universe side of it almost work better because it's something we hadn't really had before.
No.
We'd always relied on Robert Downey Jr.'s character, for instance, his Tony Stark character, to be the comedic insight into all
funnies,
this. But as that's gone on, Tony Stark has become increasingly less funny. And
he's had more darker storylines.
That's it. I mean, particularly by the time we got to Age of Ultron, the character is more or less unrecognisable now from where he started.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So it's nice to have a fresh sort of perspective on it. And the first everyman character, the first blue-collar everyman character.
That has kids.
That's
the first... That's a big milestone, really.
And it is a film that has that. You've got Michael Pena, who's got this great, almost Nick Frost-like.
Almost, I remember you saying that.
And that's where you sit and think, I can see the Edgar Wright influence there.
You can still see a lot of his tropes and stuff, even with some of the editing. Because I know that's what people are saying. It's like saying, I really, really miss the way that it would have looked if it was an Edgar Wright film.
Exactly.
But it's still got those tropes. It's still got those trademarks.
I think it's close enough for us to have an idea of what we would have gotten. I mean, I did the interview with Peyton Reed, and he specifically said, look, I mean, the heist movie, I think that was Edgar Wright. He goes, the actual narrative structure, that was Edgar Wright. He goes, the relationship between so and so, that, and basically,
that was Edgar, yeah.
When you get down to it, it's still Edgar Wright's film. They've just changed the dialogue. And it's not Edgar Wright shooting the shrink stuff.
Well, weirdly, I think Peyton Reed was a pretty good choice.
I think so as well.
Yeah, he was actually on the shortlist to do Guardians.
And you can kind of see why. Now, I don't think his Guardians would have been as imaginative as James Gunn's, but...
No, but he's been one of those directors that he's always kind of threatened to do a superhero film. He was going to do Fantastic Four.
Yes.
Do you remember? Yeah.
Which I do think might have been a better idea, judging by, the upcoming marketing for Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
But less about that. Anyway, one thing we have to talk about in this film, it opens with a special effect. Literally opens with a special effect that is unrivaled by anything in the history of cinema. They have de-aged Michael Douglas for a 1980s set prologue to this film, which is unbelievable. It really looks like...
It looks like you're watching Romance of the Stone.
That's what it really does. Forget Jeff Bridges in Tron with his dead-eyed, no-lip-moving... That was it's awful. This, oh my God.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton Reed was joking that Michael Douglas may have tried to buy the technology. Tried to buy the company that did it. And Michael Douglas is cracking jokes about wanting to make a Romancing the Stone prequel, but an Ant-Man prequel. But I think... I think Michael Douglas should buy the company, get Kathleen Turner out of retirement, and give us Romancing the Stone 3. A lot of fun. I did enjoy this film. I had a lot of fun with it. I was laughing. I was cheering. So with a packed audience, everybody was doing the same. I don't think anyone disliked it. The worst I've heard anyone say is it was all right, but that was in a minority, and that person was trying to be pretentious.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a lot of fun with it. You had a lot of fun with it. Did you see it?
I really loved it. I saw it in IMAX effects with the shrinking.
With
the go
brilliant.
The whole from the bathtub going into the club scene was absolutely incredible.
Do see it. I mean, it's also very tidily packed into just under 2 hours. It's about an hour 55.
Yeah, which is very different for a Marvel film nowadays.
Thor 2 did that. Thor: The Dark World did that as well. but it felt longer. This feels strangely like a 90-minute superhero film.
Yeah.
And you know what? For all intents and purposes, that's what it needed to be.
Yeah.
So should we crack on with the box office top 10 for the week then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Number 10.
Starting us off, we have Song of the Sea, which I've not seen. You have seen.
Did you not get around to seeing this one?
I still haven't. I will watch it because I really enjoyed Secret of Kells.
I had this pegged as the kind of film you would enjoy, to be honest. Because I'll be honest, at first I thought it was a Studio Ghibli film, in which case I thought
It's got that look.
Case will be there day one. No, I did enjoy it. I think it's not particularly for young children, but it has a very mythical fairy tale-like quality to it. It's not a big name cast, save for Brendan Gleeson, but visually it's amazing. It's really something to behold. I thought it was a really genuinely beautiful film.
Number 9.
This is a film that I was there for the opening day. Paul Dano and John Cusack, Love and Mercy.
Ah, yes. Yeah, I enjoyed this. I thought it played around with the biopic thing just enough. It made it more about the characters rather than...
flitting between the two time periods.
That's it. But Paul Dano's half of the film is more interesting than
You'd
John
like to watch an
Cusack's.
entire film of that. Yeah.
That's it. I would rather have seen the Paul Dano story of how the Beach Boys, became, the artists that they were, rather than, the later years of Brian Wilson.
Number 8.
Okay, moving down, we have Spy.
Yeah, what's left to say on Spy? Because it's been
I
about
know
6 weeks
We
now.
like talk about it every week.
It's
we say
6
we love
weeks.
Statham, Les McGough was good, Peter Serafinowicz, not so much. That's our standard.
Works for me.
Cool.
Number 7.
Empire is still hanging.
It still is. Empire Strikes Back, Secret Cinema. I think everyone on the planet's seen this. I
hope so.
Yeah, I think so. We'll just leave that one there.
Number 6.
Moving down, we have the Amy Winehouse doc, Amy.
Now, I really love this. Did you get around to
I
this
still
one yet?
haven't seen it. I am going to watch it.
Really moving documentary.
Yeah.
A lot more to it than you would have considered. And I think that's because I went into it forgetting that it was Asif Kapadia.
The guy that did Senna, yeah.
And what you're left with is a documentary that not only has a story to tell, not only has a story of different arguments and positions to tell, but also makes important points on, I think, the societal view of its subject as well. So it has things to say about treatment by the tabloid, how we as a culture view celebrity, things like that. And I thought, actually, that's quite an impressive thing to do. I would argue that now that it's been done in the case of Amy Winehouse, it shouldn't be done again. It's an area.
I'm going to say, is it going to begat more similar docs?
Yeah, I would hope not, and we don't really need to say. But we don't need this in 15 years' time called Kim, and with Kim Kardashian. On the poster. We don't need that. No.
Number 5.
Magic Mike, extra large.
Is that actually the title? Is it Magic Mike extra large?
I just know that that's how Wilson said it last week, and that's how I always say
You're
it.
going to call it from now on.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I really enjoyed XXL, but
I've actually seen 5 minutes of it now.
Oh, have you now?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's a film that you're going into expecting a really deep narrative, but it is Showgirls for Girls, which is what you thought the first one was going to be,
and it wasn't.
But
it was a Soderbergh film, which of course he directed it. He wrote it.
Soderbergh. Did you see the honest trailers for Magic Mike? That was quite fun.
That was great.
But no, you with Magic Mike XXL, like I say, you can fit the plot in the back of a matchbox.
Yeah.
It's not an incredibly deep film, but you know what? It's a lot of fun. And if you go and see this on a Friday night in a packed cinema,
there's going to be an atmosphere.
The
People are going to love it.
atmosphere will sell it to you. And you know what? That's great. If that's the destiny for it, and fine. It's going to be inevitably finding its legacy on, girly nights.
That's it, yeah.
This is going to be the film that gets watched.
We'll have an Ann Summers night and then stick on Magic Mike XXL.
This is how Ann Summers nights are going to end. And, it's going to be watched by groups of 5 women or more, with empty bottles of Blossom Hill on a coffee table in a living room. This is, all in lounge pants. This is how the film is inevitably going to end up. And you know what? More power to it, I say.
Number 4.
Film that has absolutely zero atmosphere. Terminator Genesis.
Genesis. Well, this is the weird thing. I finally got to watch Terminator again a couple of weeks ago, and then it was on telly this week.
The first one?
The first one. So it wasn't on telly. I was stuck on a train, and it was on my iPad. I thought, screw it, I'm going to watch it again. And I cannot for the life of me get over how well constructed a horror B-movie, sci-fi horror B-movie, the original is, and how you then have such a surprising sequel. And because the sequel almost reads as if it was set up intentionally nearly a decade earlier. And, those two films are so perfect. And then you get to Terminator 3, which they didn't know what to do with it. They basically tried to replicate Terminator 2 and cop on an ending. And the ending is the most remarkable thing about Terminator 3. You then got Terminator
I can't even
Salvation.
remember the ending.
Judgment Day.
Essentially, right,
Judgment
okay,
Day
yeah.
happened. You're like, oh, okay, cool, we finally go. Yeah, that's okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then logically, the next one was Terminator Salvation, which is Christian Bale doing some growling in the future,
Doing some growling in real life as well.
Literally, at one point, goes, "This is John Connor." Literally goes into a microphone. This is John Connor. If you bounce, blah, 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 blah.
Just inaudible noise.
All right, John.
Yeah. All right.
Is that a great bit when Bryce Dallas Howard says, like, what should I tell you about? Tell them I'll be back. No, what? Like, but you're not. Like, as far as you know, you're not. It doesn't make any sense. Then, he's driving his car, which didn't exist, at that point before Judgment Day, but because of product placement does. So you can play some Guns N' Roses. But awful film. And then you've got this, which is not quite as awful as Salvation, but at the same time, worse than Terminator 3.
Yeah.
With a Terminator which makes increasingly less sense, a plot which makes even less sense than that, and an entire concept which feels like a TV pilot. And
I remember you saying that to me. Yeah.
And by complete coincidence, actually happens to be the plot of the pilot of the Terminator TV series from nearly 10 years ago with Lena Headey.
Lena Headey, yeah.
And you know what? That TV pilot, better than Terminator Genesis.
Number 3.
Jurassic World.
Right, I have a complaint.
Have you got something else to say,
I have a
Ross?
complaint about Jurassic World. I have now seen this 3 times.
I started rewatching it the other day, actually. So
Right, I too rewatched it. Now, I finally found a very large flaw in Jurassic World. One that isn't nitpicking, because a lot of people are going, oh, it doesn't make sense. Don't care.
Is it not the militarized dinosaurs? No.
No, the militarized dinosaur thing's just funny.
Oh, yeah.
That's just funny. And I will never get over the fact that, Dr. Wu is in fact basically, Korean Val Kilmer. But he is. He really, if you dressed Val Kilmer...
BD Wong.
BD Wong is Korean Val Kilmer, I'm telling you. But even down to his turtleneck. Steve Jobs like turtleneck. Yeah. Right, so BD Wong... Going back to BD Wong. Right. It's not rewatchable. That is the flaw with Jurassic World. It has nowhere near the rewatchability of even the other sequels. Like,
is this including number 3?
Including number 3. Number 3 you sort of enjoy, but actually you settle into it. I don't think Jurassic World is as rewatchable as any of the first 3.
Do you need a massive screen to really, really enjoy it?
I think so. I think you need more of a gap of time with this than you do the others. And I say that because ITV2 have seen to it. They have made it their mission in life to ensure that we, as a society, know exactly how it feels to see the original 3 Jurassic Park movies at least once a month. And we know how that works. We know how rewatchable those movies are. Jurassic World is not anywhere near as rewatchable. That is my flaw.
Number 2.
Ted 2. Straight in.
You know what? It was fine for what it was. It was funny than I expected it to be.
I didn't realise it was after credits.
There is a post-credit
one of the best
sequence.
bits.
Yeah, there's a post-credit sequence which most people won't know about. You stick around after the credits. It is worth seeing.
Yeah.
Just a little gag to laugh
It's
about
like
on the way home.
a 20-second gag.
Yeah, it's all in silence as well. It kind of works. But the film is funny. It does what the first movie did, but it's a more sketch-orientated style of comedy.
Feels like 3 or 4 episodes of Family Guy.
Exactly. It's a road trip episode of Family Guy.
Oh, yeah. One of the Brian and Stewie ones.
That's it. It's a Brian and Stewie Road to episode of Family Guy.
Yeah.
Number 1.
And still sticking at the top spot, Minions.
Now, did you ever get round to seeing this?
No. A friend of mine took his kids to watch it today. Yeah, it was good.
No, I like it. I know a lot of people are quite snooty about it. That's it. Kids are going to love it.
Yeah.
And because there is something in a contemporary context, iconic about the Minions. And yeah, perfectly understandable. They are great characters. They are a lot of fun. This movie is a lot of fun as well, and it is wacky and zany, and it has that Looney Tunes aesthetic and does the whole supervillain thing that the first Despicable Me did quite well. This is better than Despicable Me 2, but still not quite as
reach number 1.
Soulful and heartbreaking as the first Despicable Me, which I think is a genuinely beautiful film and a modern classic. On to our final film of the week then. So Selfless, which is the latest from director Tarsem Singh. And we were just saying, do you remember when he was just Tarsem?
He was just Tarsem.
Just Tarsem.
Yeah, for The Cell, and was he just Tarsem for The Fall as well?
I don't remember in that case. I don't
remember
in that one.
A surname.
But I know, because The Cell was 15 years ago with Jennifer Lopez, and that was when she was first trying to go gritty. And that had our favourite dinosaur militarizer in it. Didn't it?
Oh, D'Onofrio, yeah.
D'Onofrio, yeah. Vincent, I militarised raptors, D'Onofrio.
He crops up in everything now.
He does, with his militarized raptors. Anyway, so in this latest one, which has a sort of Looper-type feel about it, really wants to be Looper, it's the story of a dying property tycoon played by Ben Kingsley. He's got terminal cancer, he's on the way out, but he's not quite willing to go down without a fight, so he turns to an exclusive and very shady medical practice who are exclusively deal in a practice called shedding, in which they take a perfectly healthy mind from an unhealthy body and transplant it into a specially grown young, healthy body. In this case, Ryan Reynolds. So if you want to know how to look like and have the physique of Ryan Reynolds, apparently it costs $250 million and involves a brain transplant. Do you know what? Worth it. But no sooner has Ben Kingsley, no sooner has the Mandarin become Deadpool than he quickly discovers that something's not quite right about his new shapely form. And there are some flashes in his head which point to a deeper mystery surrounding the origins of his new body. Here's a clip.
What you're claiming is simply impossible.
You remember in New York when I asked you about shedding?
I have never met you.
Me, Damien.
I don't know what kind of con you're running, but I'm not biting.
That's it. I'm calling the police.
Judy, please put the telephone down. I'm starting to understand why your maids keep quitting.
What is it?
The original deed to 144 Plimpton Street.
The first building we ever bought together. Do you remember the night we signed the papers? We went to Charlie's kitchen. There's a brunette sitting in the corner. I want to talk to her. She's been staring at me all night. But you stopped me. You already closed one deal tonight. Don't get greedy.
So as I say, this really wants a slice of the Looper pie. And weirdly, you watch it and you think, actually, it is kind of strange that for all the style that The Cell had, a decade and a half ago, really, Tarsem isn't throwing in much more than Rian Johnson did with Looper. If anything, Looper is actually a more stylish film.
I think it's a very stylised.
It is. Looper's a lot more stylish than this.
Well, Looper has got its own world.
It has. Looper is also more interesting than this.
That doesn't shock me.
Yeah, this is very, very run-of-the-mill. By the time you get to the third act of this film, it has kind of burnt itself out. It's not helped by the fact that there doesn't seem to actually be any characters in the film. They just, particularly in the case of, you look at like Ryan Reynolds, for instance, in this film, and there is a sequence in which Ryan Reynolds is having a car chase, and you just think, why am I bored? Like, why am I not interested? Why do I think Ryan Reynolds looks ridiculous with that very flat hairdo? What's going on here? Why am I not at home in my pants watching TV? What's wrong with this?
Why is Ben Kingsley Deadpool?
Exactly.
What's going on?
And you just don't think it's because basically this is a role that literally anybody could play, and the only requirement was a certain physical aesthetic. They had to be sort of young, and for argument's sake, you could have Matt Bomer to do this film. And it would have played just as well. You could have got literally any member of the cast of Magic Mike XXL to be,
including Kevin Nash.
Including Kevin Nash. Now that's a version I want to see. Selfless with Kevin Nash.
Talk to Freddie Prinze, see if he can produce that.
Well, hang on. Let's keep the comic book thread going. In that version, the Mandarin becomes the Russian from The Punisher. Boom!
Oh, yes.
There it is. Right, okay, so nerd moment aside. But the problem is, you just don't care at any point. The big twists and turns are so obvious and phoned in.
You can see them from a mile away.
You can see them, not just a mile away, you see a third act twist from literally 5 minutes in the film. Over something that should be considered quite innocuous, but it's so out of place, you think, oh, okay, well, that's going to come up later. It's like Wayne's World with the stacking of the watermelons and the chickens and the sheet of glass. You just, oh, God, I hope that's going to pay off later. It's exactly that moment. It's that kind of thing. And it just doesn't quite come together.
No.
And throughout it all, you're thinking, it's kind of slick. It's kind of cheap and cheerful. And yes, it is the most recent. It's only the most recent example of Hollywood trying this Twilight Zone style mid-budget sci-fi thing. Like Limitless and Gamer, and you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Not micro-budget, but mid-budget, 40 to 50 mil type Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah, not quite like A-list star, but
they're not
kind of bankable people.
They're not chucking in Jupiter Ascending money, but they are doing Looper money.
Yeah.
You know, they're throwing some Looper money. We're going to get a Dread or a Looper or a Gamer or a Limitless out of it. Fine. You know what? I'm all for it because at least it's not a massive Hollywood film with massive stars that's too over the top. It's a small scale, relatively stripped down, pacey thriller. It just happens to be kind of average. But for the type of film that it is, you think, okay, fair enough. It's not offended me or anything. It's a disposable enough. The biggest complaint I have...
2 hours.
That's the thing. Yeah. The only complaint I can really chuck at it, other than the fact that Ryan Reynolds could literally play by Chris O'Donnell and no one would notice. That's how innocuous. It could be Sam Worthington. You wouldn't care. Jai Courtney.
I knew that was going to be next.
Do this.
I knew it was going. Oh, Joel Kinnaman.
Joel Kinnaman. Yeah, Joel Kinnaman. Scott Eastwood could do this. You know. In fact, Liam Hemsworth could.
Anybody from Suicide Squad, but it's not Will Smith or Jared Leto.
Yeah, anybody from Suicide Squad who isn't Margot Robbie.
Yeah,
you know,
one of the famous bankable ones.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone from Suicide Squad that you could hire for $100,000 would do this movie. But that's it. It is overlong. At an hour 57, it is too long. If this were 90 minutes, perfectly fine. I will give it one genuine compliment, though. It's got Victor Garber in a pretty decent supporting role.
Oh, cool.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I like Victor Garber. I wish he was in more films.
There's an episode of Frasier that he's in, I love.
But for me, he's always Jack Bristow from Alias, and he's so terrific in that role. But he has popped up in a couple of films over the years, but I wish he did more. This is an example as to why. A final dose of film news then to send us on our way for the week.
I do love a good bit of film news.
A good bit of film news. Well, you're going to love this one. Have you heard about Miyazaki's 3D short that he's doing?
I've actually not heard about this.
No. Right. Is it Hayao Miyazaki?
I would say Hayao. I
think it's spelled Hayao, but we just call him Miyazaki because that's all anyone calls him.
Yeah, Miyazaki, yeah.
So, Miyazaki is creating, for the Studio Ghibli Museum in Tokyo, a computer-generated 3D animated short. There's no word yet on whether or not this is going to be released anywhere in the world, but there is going to be an exclusive 3D CGI short by Miyazaki in the Ghibli Museum in Tokyo.
See, this is interesting because he did formally announce that he was packing it in.
He did,
but he was done.
Well, you can argue that, you know what, he's kept to his word because it's just a short, it's a little thing. It's for the museum, which he's such an intrinsic part of, then, why not? Oh, the San Diego leak stuff, we haven't talked about this.
Oh, we need to talk about this, so much.
Okay, so if anyone doesn't know...
gold,
if anyone doesn't know, here's how it went last weekend. They did the Comic-Con panel in San Diego for Batman Superman, and then Warner Brothers did. And then they immediately released the footage from that panel online for all to see. Now, if you were me, that meant that you were going to go to bed that night crying in the fetal position because it's an awful trailer for what's clearly going to be an awful movie made by people who I don't think understand what Batman is outside of a series of PlayStation games.
I think the Superman thing is still...
The Superman thing's still pretty raw for me, but to each their own.
Get some colour.
But this was But this was made worse by they then did the Suicide Squad panel, and there was footage shown, and that footage. Well, that's it. They did not release the footage. What then happened was camcorded bootlegged version of that footage finds its way online, is watched by 4 million people.
Something like that, yeah.
To which you think, wow, you should really be celebrating that one.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, this is Warner Brothers we're talking about. And
not as happy-go-lucky as Marvel.
Yeah, they're not quite that cheerful about it. No. And they put out what can only be described as the most passive-aggressive press release you've ever seen, in which they basically said, here you go, you ungrateful gits, here's the footage in HD. 3 days later. And I watched it and it didn't make it any better. But
I did read a note. It's kind of like living with someone and they have like some biscuits and you have a couple of their biscuits and then they buy you some biscuits, like some really rubbish ones.
Yeah, it's kind of like
you wanted some.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? What I really loved, that's it. But what I really loved was the Deadpool footage got leaked online as well.
Oh yeah.
How do you think that went down?
Like an absolute storm.
Well, I mean, the footage was greeted. I mean, it's worth noting that all of these leaks, right? Everyone liked everything. Even the Batman Superman trailer, tremendous applause online. The Suicide Squad trailer, everyone loved it. The Deadpool footage, everyone went nuts for it. And do you know what the response was to that leak?
What was it?
Ryan Reynolds went out and said, tell you what, 3 weeks' time we're going to release it in HD. Until then, enjoy. Amazing. And you think, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan Reynolds, I'm glad you're not that bland.
Team Deadpool's marketing campaign has been fantastic so far. Just the things they've been putting just on Twitter for the cast has been wonderful.
We think there is actually almost limitless marketing potential for Deadpool. Given that he's a fourth wall breaking character.
He's talking straight
to... You know what I would do with that if I were Fox?
What's that?
Whenever I would put out fake trailers, like for real films. So what are they? Say Fantastic Four. I would actually put out an alternative Fantastic Four trailer in which, in like 10 seconds into it, Deadpool just strolls in, starts talking to camera, and goes, "Hey, forget these guys. I've got a movie out next year.
Yeah,
it's going
February.
to be way better than this." But I tell you what, if you can't wait that long, you need some comic book stuff. Just enjoy this in the meanwhile. I'm going to go back to my thing now. You enjoy the Fantastic Four, and he leaves. That would be my trailer.
Oh, that'd be great.
And you know what? Ryan Reynolds would do that totally. He loves that character. He would do it.
He does love. You can tell, can't you? He's got genuine like love and respect for that character.
Green Lantern, meanwhile, we have an answer to the who's going to play him. The answer is multiple people.
Because we have a title.
Because we have a title. Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah,
So,
I like that title.
Yeah, good work.
It's good, but we've got to wait 5 years to see the bloody film.
Yeah. There is that about it. But, James Franco. We've got to wrap the week up with James Franco.
We've got to start the show, we've got to end the show.
Exactly. James Franco is going to team with author Anna O'Reilly with Anna O'Reilly, the producer, not the author. The author is Alex Marwood, to produce and star in adaptation of Alex Marwood's novel, The Killer Next Door. Because you're James Franco, what else are you going to do?
It's another week, I'm going to make a film.
Yeah. I don't know. He's becoming like the weird sort of Beverly Hills bar scene version of Dwayne Johnson, isn't he?
I think that happened a while ago.
Quite clearly. Right, so we should have a look at next week. Next week's going to be quite interesting.
We've got some interesting.
Well, next week's Maggie. Maggie's finally out next week. So Arnold Schwarzenegger I have seen. Have you seen the film?
No, but I am going to watch it.
Right, it is not what you expect it to be. This is Schwarzenegger does zombie horror drama. And that is the description.
Yeah.
That's the best description.
It was released. Was it Sundance? Or was it South by Southwest?
South by Southwest. Yeah. We also have next week Inside Out, which is
so excited.
It is. I was at the press thing yesterday. Do you know what I found out, by the way?
That Amy Poehler is a total babe.
She's a fox, and there is such a thing as formal hot pants. Genuinely. I also found out though from producer Jonas Rivera, who produced the film, that the name of the musician is Michael Giacchino. That's how you say his name. It's
Giacchino.
Michael Giacchino.
Not Giacchino.
No, it's Giacchino. That's how you say his name. We are now corrected for all times. Inside Out is upon us next week.
Now we know.
We also have The Legend of Barney Thompson, which is directed by and starring Robert Carlyle as a sort of contemporary version of Sweeney Todd, setting in Glasgow, I think. And of course, Southpaw, a film I am dying to see. Directed by Antoine Fuqua, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, and written, most impressively of all, by Kurt Sutter. I can't wait. Kurt Sutter of Sons of Anarchy fame. I can't wait. So, all of that to come and more next week off screen. This has been a Candy Store production for On Screen. I've been Van Connor.
I've been Kase Allen.
And we'll be back next week.
Just show me the way to get out of here, and I'll be on my way.
You've been listening to Off Screen. For more news and reviews, visit onscreenfilm.com.